Hi everyone, and welcome to Prompt 2 for my master's portfolio. This is the reflection and lesson revision. So, the role of reflection. I really enjoyed reading the article Reflective Practices, a Means to Teacher Development. I feel like that article connected with a lot of my own beliefs about reflection and how you can use it to be a better teacher and use it in your educational practices. Reflection plays a pretty large role in my instructional practices. I feel like that should be the case with every teacher because when you're a teacher, you're wanting to make your lessons work for your students. That's the whole point of teaching, is to make sure that your students are learning. And to be able to do that, you have to make sure you know what works, what doesn't work. One of the main means of reflection I rely on in my classroom is, this quote: the further stated that reflective teaching provides information on how teachers connect with learners meaningfully. That is one of the biggest things that I always reflect on. Have I connected with them in a way that is going to make their learning meaningful? As far as peer experts, I am really blessed with a really good team. I've worked with three out of my five coworkers on my team since I have started in the past 5 years. They're really amazing. These teachers have been teaching a good bit longer than I have, so I've learned to rely on them for their experience and just their guidance. They've helped kind of shaped me and pushed me to be a really good teacher. I feel like that they've provided support and assistance. We have collaborative planning once a week, though we meet much more than that. We look at data. We talk about the things that are going on. If I have a problem or anybody has a problem, we talk about, strategies that we use and or that they use that we can work together to reflect. I've borrowed a lot of ideas and strategies for them. And my experience as a student, I feel like it's really shaped the kind of teacher that I am. I was blessed with some really, really good teachers throughout my education, especially, in high school. I had some really good teachers. I had great elementary school teachers as well, but I really remember the impact some of my high school teachers had on me. They made me really love school, and that's the kind of teacher that I've always wanted to be because of that. I want to be a teacher that not only helps my students to learn and to grow, but it makes them enjoy that aspect of learning. So my original lesson was over subtraction within five. I had to design this lesson really quickly. I took over the class suddenly, happened very quickly. My goals really were just to get through the lesson, try to get at least most of my students to understand. I knew that they're going to eventually be going up to 10. Our school at the time had no curriculum whatsoever. There was, no program that we used for math. It was all just, this is what you have to teach, figure out a way to best teach it, which was a struggle. And so it was a little disheartening at the time. This is some evidence from the original lesson. These are worksheets that I actually had downloaded onto my computer that I used. One worksheet that you'll see over here is addition and subtraction mixed together. I don't know why I thought that would be a good idea. I thought that it would help me understand, who understood the difference between addition and subtraction, and really it just confused my students. We were too early on learning subtraction for that. Another worksheet we completed, it has the pictures that they cross out. They were really confused about what to do with the pictures. I don't think I focused on strategy enough. And so they were confused about how many pictures to cross out, what the actual answer was. It was a little confusing for them. So, this lesson was nowhere near as effective as I wanted it to be. I actually took the class over in November. The teacher that was in the classroom before me left suddenly. I was called up, offered this spot. I had to take it on quickly. I was brand new teacher, brand new, first teaching job. I had no idea how to proceed. It, like I said before, there was no curriculum. Teachers were kind of left just to figure it out on their own, and that's really hard for a new teacher to jump into. I didn't have, I don't think I had any differentiation in my lesson. I basically taught everyone the same way. I didn't really go deep into different strategies. It was just kind of, this is how you do it. I didn't use any manipulatives. It was just a very basic lecture style teaching. I feel like it was more of this is what you do and less of this is why you do what you do. And I remember running out of time, getting frustrated, and just feeling like I had really let the students down. So it was difficult. So here is a video of me reteaching this same lesson much better. I feel like it'll be linked. It's linked here, but it'll also be linked on the webpage as well. So I feel like this lesson was much more successful. I changed basically everything about my original lesson. I had to. I know that lesson wasn't effective, and so changing it was all I could do. I started out by reading a story. We have some, or I have some books that are stories, but they also connect to math concepts, and we have one for tradition, Monster Musical Chairs. The story is about, a group of monsters playing musical chairs. And obviously, when you play musical chairs, what happens when the music stops? Somebody is out, so you have to remove a chair. So it connects with subtraction wonderfully. This got their attention, kind of gave them a little bit of a dip into what subtraction is like and how it can apply in the world. A lot of my students, they've played musical chairs before, so they understand how that works. Also, we have a math curriculum now, and it helped me lay out the foundation for my lesson. My students were engaged, they wanted to answer questions. I feel like it was very successful. Cultural diversity. So, as I said, we do have a math curriculum now. It has a really good job of showing diversity in their slides and in their work pages. On the slide that I used in my lesson, it showed a people of color family and a woman in a wheelchair. So not only were they getting exposed to different ethnicities, they were also getting exposed to, disability. I had a couple of students ask me, what was going on. And so it may seem small, but for my black students and my Hispanic students, seeing themselves up on slides is a big deal. And so I really like that. For student engagement, my students were very engaged. For my original lesson, not engaged at all. They just seemed bored and confused. During my reteach, they were engaged. They were making connections when we were reading the story. When they were asking questions, raising their hands, wanting to participate. They loved the Play-Doh, the Clay Crushers activity, and they participated and did a really good job. So for behavior, I do actually have a pretty rowdy class this year. I have a lot of excitable students, and I've worked really hard to make my lessons engaging in a way that they want to learn and not get too distracted. Getting to know my students was really icing on the cake for this. Getting to know them and being prepared for what distractions might take place has really helped. I had a couple students who got off track, got a little too excited, but we were able to redirect them and get them back on track. I was able to do it quickly, get them back on track. Too much redirection, can throw the lesson off, and it just causes a disruption. So for monitoring students' learning, I, walked around the classroom, walked around the front, was watching my kids, see what they were doing. For my Clay Crushers activity, I was seated, but I'm able to see my students. And my parapro was walking around that whole time. You couldn't really see her, but she was walking around making sure they were, who was getting it, who might not have been getting it. And then calling on students and asking questions is also a great way to monitor their learning. So for my diverse learners, using hands-on activities helps my struggling learners. They were able to see it. I do have a couple of students with an IEP. And I feel like doing something like the Clay Crushers activities and helping them see and physically manipulate what they're doing helps them make that connection to the learning. For some of my higher students, when we were looking at the slideshow with all of the different pictures, I tried to get them to come up with a word problem that could match the picture and the area that we were looking at to try to accelerate their learning a little bit. Overall, I think that it was a very positive learning experience. We just learned about addition, so I figured subtraction was going to throw them off a little bit, be a little bit confusing. I definitely had some students that were getting confused, but I feel like I addressed that confusion pretty quickly and made mental notes of who was struggling a little bit and who might need a little extra support. After the lesson, when they were completing their independent work, I made sure to go jot down, kind of some notes about what I observed during the lesson. My students enjoyed the activities. They really thought it was fun. We haven't got to do Play-Doh a whole lot this year, and so being able to use it, they were very excited for that. So I did highlight two students. One I highlighted is a little bit of a struggling learner. The other one is a little bit of a higher performer. So the two students are Harmony and Corey. Corey is a little bit of a struggling learner. He was getting pretty confused on what numbers went where on the worksheets that we completed for independent practice. I think he'll benefit from a better understanding of number sense. I think before he can get stronger in subtraction, he needs to understand what those numbers are and what they mean. Harmony is a little bit of a higher learner. She was very successful with her worksheets. I feel like I need to extend her learning a little bit. She's pretty bright and picks things up. I think that she should be able to move on to subtraction within 10 and possibly even, word problems that she reads on her own. So here are my artifacts. This is Corey. As you can see with him, he gets a little bit confused on what numbers go where. These you can see all of his erase marks and the correction where I was kind of working with him. Over here you can see he started with 1 take away 3. So he knew that 1 was marked out. He knew that 3 were not marked out. And so he was just needed to figure out what went where. But over here you can see there's a lot of erasing where we kind of talk through it together. This is Harmony. She did really well. This is the one that we completed together, and these are the ones that she completed on her own. And this is from the Clay Crushers activity that we did. We went back after we did it and we talked about it and we recreated some of them in our workbook. So on to my graduate experience. I have really enjoyed my time in the master's program. I thought it would be overwhelming to do school while I was teaching, and there were times where it was a little stressful, but overall I really enjoyed it. I feel like I've gained a good deal of valuable information. Some of the classes I enjoyed the most were the methods classes, like the investigating science and social studies methods and math methods and things like that. I think they gave me a lot of strategies and effective ways to teach my students that I didn't really think of before. I also really enjoyed the classroom management class. As you'll see in prompt 3, classroom management is a big deal to me. I feel like it is something that is not touched on enough in the undergraduate program, and I feel like it needs to be touched on a little bit more, especially now. We're getting more and more diverse students, more behavioral problems, more students with IEPs, and we need a lot more support and guidance on how to effectively run a classroom to support these students. I also really enjoy the diverse classrooms in a global society. I feel like it showed me how I needed to adjust my teaching to fit my students. I do have a very diverse group of students, and I feel like that class kind of helped me figure out ways I can make connections with those students. And so overall, I feel like all these classes have helped me learn something new and grow as an educator.